basically, I've got a working history supporting young women and babies in a previous job, and I've also worked as a police officer a number of years ago. So I'm aware that mums and babies, well, the housing situation for mums and babies is pretty dire at the moment, and COVID's had such a negative impact on that as well, because there's less private rented properties available. So I was aware that young mums and babies are being housed in emergency accommodation such as bed and breakfast in the local area. And although they're fine, they provide safe accommodation. The accommodation is mixed with people they don't know. So it can be people with drug and alcohol problems, prison released people, people with mental health problems, etc. So it just makes the emergency housing situation more difficult for them being a new mum. They've got stress sort of coming from all levels. So myself and my husband have got a housing background. I've got a few properties which we rent out. So over the last few years, we've gone down the route of letting those properties out to mums and babies, and then looking at opening our own emergency housing support unit in the form of bed and breakfasts, which we did last year in June. So we've been open since June. And then it was my idea to sort of transition over from a business, just a normal everyday private business, and over into a charity, which we've done, and we've got the incorporation as a charity in November. And the beneficiaries for the charity are obviously the more income that we receive can be ploughed back into the provision, so that we can fund staff. And then staff can be there to support these mums and babies, which is what they don't get elsewhere. Well, that was basically because of my knowledge about the housing situation for mums and babies. There isn't anything specifically tailored to them. And then because myself and my husband have got a housing business, and we know that there's a shortage of these properties for mums and babies, it was sort of a joint idea that we'd look at our next investment being a property that we could use for emergency housing. So just accommodation that they perhaps come to for a number of weeks or months until they can find that tenancy that they need. So we've been looking for the accommodation for about 18 months and really struggled to find somewhere. So we did a change of use on one of our own properties and renovated it, etc. during COVID. It's kept us busy. And then we opened it during COVID because we had time to finish it, etc. And then we've also then rented another property that we don't own, and done the same there. It didn't need as much renovation, so we've sort of duplicated the provision really in the last sort of 7-8 months. I just think it's a no-brainer. The provision that we're providing, the service that we're providing is for mums and babies, so it's very social, and it's for the need of vulnerable people, and I just think it works. And going down the charity route, there's financial savings there if you're not a business, whereby that you don't pay tax if you're a charity, so that tax that you'd normally pay over to the government can be put back into the business and to recruit more members of staff, etc., and provide a better service. So it just works. And my whole aim was to give up the job that I was in at that time, and take a role within Blossom and Bloom, which we've achieved now. So, you know, I've just gone from a full-time role within the council to a full-time role within Blossom and Bloom. So what I've gained from it is, you know, a salary, you know, a job like you and like most people have. But then what we're doing is putting a provision which is needed into the community, and lots of the community have really bought into the idea. So the girls need the accommodation and are so grateful, but they're also really supportive of each other and developing that community spirit of supporting each other, and helping them each other move on, and being grateful when they move on. You know, I'm really pleased for them and stuff. So it's just a no-brainer that that's the way that it needed to go, really. We already had the business running, but as a business, but the social idea has always been there in the back of my mind. And when I made the initial steps to change over to a social business, there was an issue with Charities Commission, because as a personal interest, we own one of the properties and then rent the other one. So they had an issue with a conflict of interest. So it was at this point that I got Social Business Wales involved to sort of go through our whole business plan and work out a way forward with it, really, how it would best work. And Rachel has just, the ideas were already there, but she's organised me into sort of thinking at things, not just for now, but, you know, and not the immediate future, the next 6 months, but also the next 12, 18 months, 2 years, about where we're going to be. And it was also clear that we needed to achieve this charity status to be able to employ the staff to provide a good service. And she's just worked alongside me, sort of pushing me in the areas that I've needed. She's been someone for me to vent to. She had the initial idea for the funding for the staff. And without her, we definitely wouldn't be where we are today. So I've got a lot of thanks for Social Business Wales. They've been great, especially Rachel. The challenge that we had is the transition from a private business over to a charity, to a CIO. I'd already made that application, but because of the concerns of the conflict of interest with the Charity Commission, it was about looking at the bigger picture and splitting it into 2 halves, which is what we did. Rachel was key to sort of, everything's in my head and I'm so passionate about it. But she just took the time to sit and listen and think, right, okay, so perhaps we can go down this route or that route. And just literally talking about it over the few weeks that we did, we're like, oh yeah, this is the direction we're going. And before we knew it, I think it was within 6 weeks of Rachel coming on board, we achieved the charity status and the incorporation, and we were already on to applying for funding, which came shortly after in January. It's a hard one because, I mean, obviously at the time where we've created Blossom and Bloom and opened our doors, it's been wholly in the time of COVID. But the issue with housing for mums and babies is historical. It's a long-term problem that's existed well before COVID. What I think the main issues is that the girls are in need of that emergency accommodation, but if there's lots of rentals available or move-ons within social housing, etc., then they wouldn't have to stay in the emergency housing as long as they are. So COVID sort of restricted the amount of move-on available to these girls. So it's not had a direct impact, as in the amount of people coming through the door, because we're only a small provision and we've got 7 mums and babies with us. But it's definitely had an impact in the fact that they've struggled to get those tenancies to move on to. But we're definitely seeing move on now. Things are moving. We've had 3 successful move-ons within the 6 months, which is brilliant to see. But we're hoping the more the restrictions are lifted going forward, then they'll be with us a less amount of time, and we can offer the service to more mums and babies then. The highlight is for me is definitely working with the girls. We've achieved lots, I've achieved lots personally, then we've achieved lots as a charity, but the highlight is definitely working with the girls on a day-to-day basis. It's something that me and the staff love. They have good days and bad days, and some days I come home upset because they've had bad days, but seeing them happy and they appreciate the help that they're receiving and their support, and seeing them succeed and move on and go into their own properties with the little ones, definitely the highlight. Nothing would beat that. Well, reverting back 12 months and speaking to my husband, we were always going to be small and niche and a provision just within Rill, really, because Lee and I are Rill born and bred. However, the longer we're doing it and the more people we speak to, there's a need for this service everywhere. So there's only one of me, and there's only one of Lee and the trustees that are involved. They're not easy to get involved and build up a good successful team. But I'm hoping maybe our idea, if not Blossom and Bloom and us, the idea is used. Without a doubt, yeah. A lot of the hard work was done before Social Business Wales came involved with Blossom and Bloom. We were already running as a business, but it was early days, and you know, it is sitting down with Social Business Wales and creating your business plan, which we already had. It was all in our heads and we were already partway through, but just having that someone to focus you, and you know, spend the time getting it all written down on paper and getting you to think about the next steps, just been imperative, really. I definitely recommend it. Go for it. It's really rewarding, even if it's just a little idea at the back of your head that you think you can help. You can think, you know, you've got something to offer and that would be a benefit to the community, then just speak to Social Business Wales about it. They'll be the ones that say that whether they think it fits in with any wider reforms that are going and whether any funding will be achievable. But it's so rewarding, and you know, I've changed my career in the space of 12 months. I'm doing something I love, providing a service to the community which is needed and appreciated, and the future is really bright. It's not all about making money from a private business point of view and you know, personally making lots of money, because even if you're doing it in the Social Business Wales, you know, I make money, everybody goes to it to make money. You know, I've got myself a job in an area where I really love now, so go for it. Similar to what I've just been saying, I think working with each other, you know, socially, just chatting to each other, doing something, whether that be huge aspirations or just you know, making your local area look tidier, or giving you and your children something to do. You know, little steps create big things. And you know, it, yes, we're doing a fab job as members of staff, but it's the girls that are there that are receiving our support that are also helping each other, and they don't really see that until they've reached the end of their journey and they're like, actually, yeah, we've achieved a lot. And I think if everybody has that sort of drive that they want to help each other with the community, then things will massively improve.